He is one of the greatest bull riders of all time. He is raw. He's authentic. You never know what you're going to get, but you're pretty sure it's going to be real. It's J.B. Mauney here on the Will Cain Show. What's up, J.B.?
Thanks for having me.
So, your State of the Union?
No.
I'm kidding. We're not going to talk politics.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk politics. But, you know, JB, you're from North Carolina. You now live here in Texas. You know, I'll tell you this. Can I just ask you this? This isn't political. I'm not even sure it's cultural. I don't think there's any sport that is more quintessentially American than rodeo.
There's not. I agree 100% with you.
Maybe the only debate would be football.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure rodeo dated back farther than that.
And it to me exemplifies exactly what I just talked about. I mean, it's the edge.
Yes,
It's risk tolerance. It's frontiersman. It's cowboy. Tell me what you think of rodeo and how it represents America.
Just the way I go about everything in my entire life, the old school way. You know, this is, guys go at it a little different nowadays. They're more kind of the athlete side of things, you know, trying to eat right and working out, things like that. But it's still, once you crawl off in that buck and shoot, it's still the old school mentality and let it all hang out on the line.
So you talk about the guys who are turning into athletes and eating right, and you're still smoking Marlboros?
Yeah, I didn't grow out of that.
So is that a pre-shoot and post-bucking off? Give me your routine. I'm going to be honest with you and the audience. Like, the minute this show is over, a zen goes in. I don't know if you know what zen is.
Oh yeah, I know what zen is. And as soon as this show's over with and I step out those doors, I'll fire one up. And I smoke one right before I come through those doors.
And how quickly after you get off the bull?
Oh, I had to make it to the locker room, which they frowned upon. But intros were really pretty good because I liked it. It was dark. They always had the smoke. Well, it just blended in, so I could get by with it then.
The other part about you that's old school is, and you did it at the beginning of your career, you wore the helmet. And very few guys have kept the cowboy hat. But you went back to the cowboy hat. I mean, obviously, and you've experienced, I don't know that the helmet would have saved you, but you've experienced some of the risk of not wearing a helmet. Why'd you go back to the cowboy hat on the bull?
Oh, my parents made me wear one when I was little, and it was more or less habit than it, you know, it was always in my rigging bag. I always grabbed it just like I would my bull rope, you know, when I was getting ready. And I can't remember what year it was, 2011 or something. I wasn't riding very good, and we were bucking practice bulls at the house, and I never picked it up. I left it laying on my bag. I got on, rode that day, and got off, and the guy said, "Man, that looked good." It felt good. He goes, "You just gonna quit wearing it?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You didn't wear your helmet. It don't know." Like, I had no clue. I didn't even put it on. And I was like, "That's right." And I never put it back on.
Never put it back on. So it wasn't you were making a point about being old school. You just rode well with the hat.
I felt like I didn't lose vision of them. I kept them right in my eyesight. With a helmet, your peripheral, you can't see side, you know, you're kind of pretty much zoned in. So, you know, when I didn't wear it, it's almost like I never lost sight of those bulls. No matter where they were at, I could still see them out of the corner of my eye.
So I'm going to follow up on that. So when you're, you know, this is a weird sport in that I don't know how you practice. Like, I know you live, you know, an hour and a half away from here in Stephenville, Texas, and I know you're raising bulls and you've got a ranch. But, I mean, the danger of the sport makes it so, I don't know, you can't get on bulls every day and ride, can you?
I did. I mean, that's, you know, that's the only true form of practice you can actually do to help make you a better bull rider. I mean, they have drop barrels, you know, simulations, but it's not like the real thing. You know, a drop barrel does the same exact thing every time, just up and down. You can work on minor things on that, but the way I looked at it, the only way I was going to get better was to get on bulls every day, and that's what I try to do.
So 8 seconds for us watching feels like 8 seconds. What does 8 seconds feel like on a bull?
Just depends on how it's going. If it's going smooth, it rolls by pretty fast, like sitting in a rocking chair. But if it's going, you're out of shape and getting all that power, it takes a long time for that whistle to blow.
Are you 8 seconds? A lot of things in your life you can fit into 8 seconds.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A bad ride, you can fit a whole pile of stuff in 8 seconds because this seems like it just like it's in slow motion.
So taking you back to that slow motion, you talked about what you could see with the hat versus the helmet. I mean, again, to us, it looks like chaos, and you're just riding a tornado. But you're watching this beast, 1,500-pound beast? I don't know.
Just depends. Some of them bigger.
You're watching him. And by the way, if anybody hasn't watched, they're athletes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the way they move, their bodies, it defies reality, gravity, and every other word I could throw in. And you're watching what? Like, what cues are you looking at down at that bull to see which way he's going to go?
Well, you don't really watch their head because them bulls will swing their head one way and go the opposite direction. So you kind of look where their hump is, or right there at the front of their shoulders. You try to just keep your eyesight there. That keeps your chin down. If your chin ever gets up, you get reared back. That's when you get on all the power, and more or less you ride them off a feel. You don't watch. Like when they turn into your leg, you'll feel them, and that's why you have to work on body position all the time. You're constantly moving when you're riding bulls because your legs are what pulls you around. When that bull turns back, you got your head down, but when he turns, it hits that leg. Well, that pulls you, and it's pretty much like dancing. He makes the move, you follow him.
So look, I'm all hat, no cattle. I'm a pretend cowboy. I grew up an hour north of here, small town, and been on horseback plenty. I'm super ashamed that every time there's a mechanical bull on Fox and Friends, which I host on the weekends, I'm one of the worst.
Yeah.
And I watched 8 seconds. I know what to do. I know squeeze with the inside of my legs. I know lean, get on top of my fist, and I think I'm saying the right things.
Yeah.
And I know, I don't want to be leaning too far forward, but I don't want to be too far back. But there's something about that slick mechanical bull. JB, I'm an embarrassment.
I have to show you. I recently bought one. We found it on Facebook, and so I went and bought it, and we've got it set up. My little boy, you can turn that thing wide open, and he'll ride it as long as you.
Really?
As long as you have someone sitting there running the controls, he'll ride that thing all day.
So you're from North Carolina. What got you into this? Were you out here mutton busting at rodeos in North Carolina? Like, why'd you start riding bulls?
My dad still wrestled, and I think I was 3 when I started riding sheep. Always rode horses, was always carrying a rope around, and they started letting me get on sheep, and then it went into calves, and then steers, junior bulls, and I was 13 when I started getting on big bulls, and parents did not like that so much, but they got used to it, I guess.
So I mentioned you're from North Carolina, you live now in Texas. I don't know where we are currently. I don't know if half the guys on the PBR compete this weekend are Brazilian.
Close to it.
We're the best cowboys. We're the best bull riders.
Everybody thinks Texas cowboys, but when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, we could go to an open bull riding in North Carolina almost every day of the week and never go past 4 hours from my house, an open bull riding. And, that was the place to be back then. It's changed a lot now. There's not as many bull riders over there as there was then. And I'd say the way it's looking, Brazil's got I call it the more hungry guys coming,
And they're different, right? Like, you're fairly tall. You're 5'10". You're pretty light. I always think, I've been told I've got the worst build for a bull rider. Like, I'm 6'2", 180.
You'll be all right.
But those Brazilian dudes are big. My point is most bull riders are not very big guys.
Yeah, most of them are not very big.
But except the Brazilians.
Yeah, some of them are big. They work out constantly. I mean, they're stout. I relied more on balance than strength, if you can't tell. And, those guys, they work out so much and they're so strong that, if they do get out of position, they can hunker down and just muscle through it. You're not going to muscle an 1,800-pound bull. I don't care how strong you are. So eventually, something's going to give. And to where I never worried about working out. I worked enough during the day messing with bulls and working bulls that I figured I didn't need to go to a gym. I'd never seen anything in a gym that had to do with riding a bull, so I didn't go.
I mentioned it earlier. I don't know if the helmet would have saved you, but you've been retired, you said, since September. Broke your neck. First of all, let's get the rundown of the injuries throughout your career.
Oh, shoot. How long was this show?
There's no time limit.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll be here all day if I'm trying to list back because it started when I started getting on bulls.
What's the worst? I know the most recent one, but if I said to you, give me the 3 or 4 worst, what would they be?
Oh, when I was 18, Bull stepped on my stomach, broke all my ribs on my right side, lacerated my liver. They said it should have killed me. Pretty much tore this arm completely off. Skin was the only thing holding it on. Got a first surgery. Candy Freeman in Dallas here put a screw, 13 anchors in it to reattach everything. That was the first surgery. Had to go back in about 2.5 years later and have a second surgery, and I'm pretty sure I need a third one because I'm pretty sure I ripped some stuff back loose. And that was the hardest one to come over. Lacerated my kidney. By far the shoulder was the hardest one to overcome because this was my free arm. This was my balance arm. Everybody thinks this is the most important one, but it's not.
Oh.
The one you hold on with, its main job is to stay shut. I mean, that's pretty simple. This one controls where your upper body goes. You get it out of shape, you're hitting the ground not too far after that.
So a couple follow-ups on the injury. So you get stepped on here. Did you have the vest on?
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, my bull riding knowledge extends to Lane Frost and 8 seconds and Tough Hedeman. But no, I watched you. By the way, when you came out, the fact that you were from North Carolina was, look, I know not every cowboy's from Texas, but Montana, Canada, Brazil, and then now increasingly like some Australia. Isn't Jess Lockwood?
He's Montana.
He's Montana.
Kai Hamilton
is Australia.
Yeah.
But I wasn't used to seeing somebody from North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
So, but in 8 seconds, I mean, it was a horn, but it was this area. That's what killed Lane Frost.
Yeah, it was just a horn. Hit his ribs, broke that rib, and that rib stuck through the main artery going through his heart.
And then the shoulder, you said everything but the skin. The skin was holding it on. Like, but I didn't realize that's your off arm. Like, what is that? It gets slung too hard while you were.
No, I was in Canada at the Calgary Stampede, rode my bull, whistle blew, and I was a little out of shape when the whistle blew, and I figured I was getting ready to get hung up. My hand wasn't going to come out the way I tied it in there. I meant for it to be in there, and I wasn't going to have time to reach down and pull my tail. I was headed to the ground when my rope slipped across that bull's back. And I guess as I was going down, I put my arm out to catch myself. And when I got close to the ground, he kicked at me, caught me in this armpit, so all my weight and his weight went down on this, and it popped my shoulder out the bottom side and just tore completely everything.
And I'm always curious, you know everything right away? You knew this is not
it
dangling?
It didn't really hurt at first because I was asleep. He knocked me out also. So I woke up, and I couldn't figure out, like, I wasn't out very long. Like, I didn't have a concussion. I knew exactly what was going on, but I couldn't see. I had a straw hat on summertime, and it was smashed into my face. I didn't know where the bull was at. I'm trying to get up. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't put my arm in front of me. I was holding myself up with this one, trying to do that, and it wouldn't last. Man, I must have broke my arm. Adrenaline was running, so you don't feel it. And they got to me, and they said, you need to stop moving. I said, take my hat off. They pulled it off, and I went like this. Couldn't move it. I look over, and it was down here, and I was like, all right, I'll quit moving.
And then we were talking about, so retired because you broke your neck in September. You said you'd still be riding if you hadn't broke your neck, but the doctor said the next one's paralysis or death.
Yeah.
And I said, so I asked you, so you break your neck, and you knew immediately. How do you know?
I don't, there's some weird sense I have, because every time I've ever been injured, I knew exactly what was wrong with me. Like, I broke my back one year in South Dakota, walked out of the arena. Tandy asked me, he said, you all right? I said, no, I just broke my back right between the shoulder blades. You sure? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. T1, T2 was fractured. And that night when it happened, my legs were shot. I'd been beat. I mean, beat. And when I showed up, it happened in Lewiston, Idaho. When I got there, I broke my left leg about 6 inches, the small bone. I broke it earlier, probably a month or so before that. So my left leg was broke, my left foot was broke, and my right ankle was broke when I got to Lewiston. And the first thing when I come off of him, he caught me with his hip, kind of twisted me around. Well, when I hit the ground, I thought, man, thank God he didn't step on my legs. And when I rolled over, I pushed with my arms to get up, and I said, I just broke my neck. And I got up, and I was trying not to use my arms, trying to keep everything, and I was walking on my knees, and I got up. A buddy of mine jumped off the bucket shoes, helped me back in the chute, and that's what he said, you all right? I said, I just broke my neck.
Have you ever, I mean, you don't wear the helmet, so what about the face?
No.
The teeth, the cheek?
I'm missing a few. Yeah.
Missing a few what?
Teeth. It's a little harder to chew on the right side than it used to be. Yeah, it was. I felt like I rode better without the helmet, but when it come to get hit in the face, it hurt a heck of a lot more.
I bet. Is that on the back of his skull?
That or a horn, because everybody thinks the horns are the worst part. The horns are not the worst part. Their feet. The horn hurts. I mean, you'll break stuff and get stitches, but the feet's where all the damage comes from, because you got 1,600 pounds pushing them down. And I think the first bull riding I went to after I quit wearing a helmet, Will turned back. I was riding him right at the whistle. My feet whipped behind me. He hit me across the side of my face right there and broke my eye socket, my cheek. I walked around for about 2 weeks, looked like somebody had slid a golf ball under my, and it was a hematoma. Blood had filled up in there, so I walked around like that.
Why is it worth it? All this. Why is it worth 8 seconds?
The feeling you get when you hit the ground and you make a great bull ride, and everybody is screaming to the top of their lungs and hooping and hollering. And what made it better for me is when you turn around and you look at all your buddies on the back of the chutes, guys that also do it for a living, and they're just as pumped as the people sitting in the stands. You knew you done something special.
Speaking of the guys, so I said it, and so I don't take for granted that everybody watching knows rodeo or watches bull riding. It's a dumb question to ask you, but I said at the outset, it's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, you look for any list of bull riders, and you're number one on a lot of lists. You're number one for your generation on almost every list. But the other names are Tuff Hedeman and Chris Shivers and maybe Lane Frost. Who is, and then you can go to older guys as well, by the way, but who is the greatest bull rider of all time?
Oh,
If you want to say it's J.B. Mauney, you can say it's J.B. Mauney.
I'll never say that. I had a job to do, and that was my job. So, if they want to, me being on those lists means I did my job more times than not. So, I don't know. I looked up. There's a lot of guys. It's hard to break it down because, world titles, yeah, they hold a lot of accountability for being the best, but, Savano's won 3 world titles. You got Adriano, but then Lane Frost, he did more for bull riding after his accident. 8 seconds come out. Jerome Davis, world champion bull rider from North Carolina. That's pretty much who I looked up to. I lived right by him. He's paralyzed, been in a wheelchair since, I think, 98 or 99. And that, being around Jerome was what helped me, because you're around a man that did it for a living, what you're wanting to do, and you can see what happens right there. Like, one day it's here, and the next day it's gone, and it makes you realize real fast that if you're going to do it, you better mean it.
So in the locker room, like we were talking about the size of bull riders, now if I go in there, like the wrestlers and the ropers are pretty big dudes.
Yeah.
But is there an alpha pecking order in the locker room when everybody's there together?
The older generation, they think the older the guys are, they think they've got to say so in there. Me, I just kind of always stayed by myself. I would always go into the shower part of the locker room because I smoked, so I was always thinking about safety. And if I caught anything on fire, I'd just turn the shower on.
Always think about safety, the bull rider.
Yeah.
All right, last thing with you, JV. So you and I walk into a bar. We're single, we're young. On a scale of like 10's a rock star and 1's a librarian, where is the bull rider?
10.
10?
Rock star.
You and he's old, Ozzy Osbourne, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Walk into a bar. We make you the same age, and you and Eddie Van Halen walk into a bar, and he's got nothing on you?
He might. Yeah, but when I was younger, I lived life to the fullest. I took every advantage because, riding bulls for a living, you're not guaranteed the next day. So I took advantage of that day every time.
I think it also matters where the bar is, right?
Also, yes, that does. But we had good time everywhere we went.
A man that lived to the fullest every 8 seconds at a time. Man, it's a real pleasure to meet you. I'm a legitimate fan. I follow him both in his career on TV, on Instagram. He's got 1 million followers. He's the real deal, meaning he's always real, as you can see. And you'll enjoy keeping up with J.B. Mauney. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.